I'm John King. I'm going to have some string quartets performed on the Interpretations Concert series, a piece called Free Palestine, which is a set of pieces for string quartet. And there'll be world premieres. They've never been performed before. And I've written a whole bunch of them, and I don't know exactly which ones are going to be done, but it'll be from that series of pieces. Really, I was discovering Arabic scales, maqam'at, they call the modal systems of pitch, and then iqa'at, the modal systems of rhythm, and putting those two ideas together and kind of following different threads of how that music is organized. And I was playing those modes, those scales on my guitar and my viola. I got an oud that I was playing them on, and just becoming inspired with the qualities of sound that came out. And other people have written about this, but Arabic music is often thought of as linear. It's just melodic, everyone playing almost always in unison. And though I use that sometimes, I also thought, well, what about exploring other aspects, the kind of freeing it a little bit from those restrictions and finding out what else could be discovered. It'll go from something very rhythmic to something that's very free and open, and people playing, and the quartet moving from kind of sonic area to sonic area, and very with very big amounts of freedom and openness. And then the rhythmic stuff comes back, or the modal stuff will come back, but it goes back and forth between maybe what could be called a stricter interpretation of Arabic music, and then opening it up to what might be called free, a free spirit or free way of interpreting all that material. For me, the title Free Palestine was both a kind of a tribute or a acknowledgement of where some of the inspiration for the music came from, and it was also about the music itself, about the scale, the way that I was treating the material itself in a non-traditional, sometimes non-traditional, more avant-garde way of the materials coming together. But then it was a tribute to the people of the region, and I guess that was why I felt like it needed to be acknowledged. I wanted it to be acknowledged, at least, with the title being what it was. And it will do nothing to make that happen, but nonetheless, I still wanted to call it Free Palestine. Well, a lot of the material for this quartet, this series of string quartets, came out of my learning these Arabic scales and studying these Arabic scales on guitar and viola. Those are my two primary instruments these days. And a lot of the quote themes or thematic materials that come out in the quartets were derived through just my improvising within a mode and just playing along with it and figuring out how it worked. And I follow the pieces are named like Humayun and Rast and the scalar names of the modes that the pieces are written in. Being a violist, not a very good violist, but playing a string instrument, I've always somehow, when I have musical ideas, they're just free floating, the way they coalesce for me is I often think of just putting them into a string quartet, even if it's just to get the idea, the basic idea down that might not end up being a string quartet, but somehow that those four voices, or in my case it often becomes 8 voices or 9 voices because I use a lot of double stops and open strings and things like that. I put together this package of sound that is encapsulated within the string quartet ensemble. And after guitar, violin was my first instrument, and I've just written a lot of string quartets because that's where my sonic ear goes. and I like the timbral diversity that's, even though they're all strings, the timbral diversity that you can get, and that you can get glissandi, and you can get microtones, and you can get all sorts of other inflections that are available with non-fretted instruments. And a lot of people write just single lines, you know, or put ideas down as single lines, but the harmonic and the polyphonic and the multiple textured possibilities with string quartet just make me always go there. I mean, as my default thing. I've worked with Neil Dufallo for years and years, both with his work when he was playing with Ethel, and then his solo stuff and ensemble stuff, and he was the person I often called for the quartets where I was the violist and an ensemble was put together. We played at the Kitchen and also at Roulette a couple years ago. The same with Jennifer Choi. She was playing my music with Ethel for a while, and I worked with her in a lot of different types of ensembles, and she played in this this quartet that I put together called Crucible Quartet. And Yves I've also played with in different contexts. He plays with Nextworks, played some of my music there, and I've heard him with Nextworks, and I've heard him do his solo things and other ensembles. And so when Lev Zhurbin, I know his music through recordings mostly, but when I spoke to Neil about this particular project, Free Palestine, and these new quartets, I asked him if he had anything an ensemble that he was working with, and he told me, well, he's putting something together, but he wants to keep it a little bit under the radar, and hadn't really gotten to a point of coming out, as it were. And then I think it slowly coalesced into something that is, well, it's coalesced to the point of getting a name, the Secret Quartet, which I really like. So it'll be really interesting because the players I've known and worked with in different kinds of contexts, and now it's going to all come together for this project with interpretations. So I'm looking forward to working with them.